Welcome to Ask and Learn.
We have steam that is to be condensed in the condenser of a steam power plant at a temperature of 50 degrees C. So coming in, it's 50, and going out, it's also 50. And then it's condensed using cooling water from a nearby lake that enters the tubes of the condenser at 12 degrees C and leaves at 20. So you're heating the lake. But you're assuming that it's a huge reservoir that is not, because it's going to give up temperature to the surroundings. So you're going to probably assume that you're not really changing the inlet temperature by heating the lake. So you don't really have any feedback here. Now, let's see here. We have a mass flow rate of the lake water as 240 kilograms per second. I'm assuming this is perfectly insulated, so there's no heat transfer out of there. I want to find the rate of condensation of the steam and the rate of exergy destruction. Oh, okay. So we know it's steady flow. So the rate of energy going in is the rate of energy going out. So if we just look at this would be the cold water. Okay. If we just look at the cold water as a control volume, okay, we have heat being transferred into that cold water. Internally, there's no, as a whole, there's no heat transfer, but internally there is. So we have the heat flow into the cold water, plus the enthalpy flowing in from the lake, minus the enthalpy of the water flowing out, equals the enthalpy of the water flowing out to the lake. So that's our energy balance for the cold water. And this change in enthalpy, we can assume that a constant heat capacity for it's always liquid, and so we can get the heat capacity, which I did write it down. It is the normal heat capacity for water, 4.18 kilojoules per kilogram Kelvin, and we plug everything in here, and we get a rate of heat transferred into the lake water to be let's see, that is about 8.0 megawatts. So quite a lot of heat transfer into the lake water, right? Now, let's see here. Yeah. Okay, so now let's take a look at the steam that's being condensed. So we know that the heat going into the lake water is actually the heat going out of the steam. And because it's being condensed, we're assuming that it's going from a saturated vapor to a saturated liquid. So this is the the enthalpy of condensation, right? And we have the mass flow rate, which we don't know. We know this. We can look it up because we know the temperature is 50 degrees C, and we look it up and we get this value here, which then says, and we know this now, so we can get the mass flow rate of steam, and that's 3.369 kilograms per second. With that, we can then turn our attention to entropy. So again, we're looking at the entropy of this whole system now. And so we have the entropy flowing in from the steam, flowing in from the lake, plus the rate of entropy generated must equal the enthalpy flowing out of the condensed steam and the entropy flowing out to the lake. In the end, we arrange some things and we get these differences here. And then again, assuming constant heat capacity, and that it's that the lake water again is at the same pressure and is incompressible. So this is the change in entropy in the lake water. Again, we know that the mass flow rate of from mass conservation, right? M.4 is M.3 and M.2 is M.1. So this is the entropy generated in the lake water. And then this value here, we know it's actually the entropy of vapors, or entropy of condensation. And again, we can look that value up for water at 50 degrees C, and it's there. So we get a rate of entropy generation of 2.937 kilowatts per Kelvin. Um, so that winds up giving us an extra G destroyed if we multiplied by the surrounding temperatures, which they told us to take as, what was this? What is this? 12 degrees C? Yeah. Yeah, 12 degrees. Well, we basically assume that the surroundings are at what the lake temperature is, 12 degrees C. The water coming in from the lake is basically, we're assuming that it's in equilibrium with the surroundings. So we plug that in, multiply by the entropy generated, and we get an rate of exergy destruction of 8.37 kilojoules or kilowatts. So not actually, considering how much heat we're getting transferred internally here, there's not a lot of, I would say it's fairly efficient. We could obviously be trying to extract some of the work from this if it were, feasible and reasonable to do. I mean, it's always, well, it's not always feasible. It's feasible to get some of it, but it's not always reasonable to put the effort in and complicate a nice and simple condenser to try to get some of this work out.